All right, welcome to the March 18th open session of the City Council meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Keldorf.
Here.
Councilmember Giroux.
Here.
Councilmember Boyles. Absent. Mayor Pro Tem Baldino.
Here.
And Mayor Pimentel.
And I am here. We will first have the invocation from Rabbi Lisbon and from the Jewish Community Center, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Pro Tem Baldino. Rabbi Lisbon, the floor is yours.
We're all familiar with the saying, location, location, location. This real estate truism is also emphasized in the words of the Jewish sages, albeit in a slightly different intention. In the Ethics of Our Fathers, Rabbi Yochanan asked one of his top students, go and see what is the best trait for a person to acquire. The student replied, he felt that the most important trait for a person to acquire is a good neighbor. Maimonides writes, it is human nature that one views and actions follow those of his acquaintances and fellows, and to behave like one's fellow citizens. Therefore, one should associate with honorable people. We are proud to call El Segundo home, as El Segundo is an honorable place to live. And as we gather here today, we all pray that this city be a place of happiness and health, creativity and kindness, and may we all who visit and live here know only blessings and peace. I am honored and humbled to once again stand in the presence of such distinguished individuals who devote their lives to better the lives of others. We thank God today that our beloved country, the United States of America, our beloved state, the state of California, and our beloved city, the city of El Segundo, be blessed with such legislators, beacons of strength, belief, and leadership. We know that the strength to do what you do is born out of profound faith, hope, prayer, and trust in God Almighty. I thank you for continuing to inspire our city of El Segundo. So on this special day we pray that the great, mighty, and revered God guide our nations, the United States of America, strengthen and encourage it, bless its efforts, and protect this land, protect and guide those whom you have chosen to lead our nation, and all our elected officials together with those who all work in the services of this country. Let this nation, guide this nation in ways of the covenant that you have made with Noah, our common ancestor, for all of humanity and for the universal commandments that you have instructed him to respect your holy name, to respect human life, to respect family, to respect property, to be merciful to animals, and to follow the rules of government and safeguard and enforce these sacred commandments. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, amen. He who makes peace on high, may he bring peace upon us and upon all the humanity. And let us all say together, amen.
Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Rabbi Lisbon, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Baldino. We have two special presentations. We'll start out with the Chamber of Commerce. Marcia, there you are, to announce our 2024 Holiday Parade winners.
I think we're going to open up those doors back there. Good afternoon, good evening, Mayor Pimentel, members of the City Council, and the El Segundo community. This is one of my favorite things to do each year. We usually do it in January. However, due to the fires and being respectful of those folks affected by that, we decided to postpone it a bit. So today is our big day. So I know, there we go. We are first going to start with the El Segundo Co-op Nursery School. And while they are coming in, we want to thank the city for your longtime partnership in putting on this community tradition. It's very special. Come on up, kids. The El Segundo Co-op Nursery School won the best use of theme, children's, and if you saw them, they were dressed truly like candy cane lane houses with intricate details. It was amazing. And the Grand Marshals Award. So come on up. Sheila Fowler from our board will present your trophies to you. We should have two there, Sheila. Come on up, kiddos. There are two trophies. There you go. And the council member, are you going to come down and do pictures, or maybe line up behind and whatever the professional says here. Oh, come on, everybody.
bit of a sad picture. All right, guys, couple pictures here. And very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can't wait to see you guys next year. Oh, I love the clover on your face. You rock that. Thank you all very much. Our next award is the Best Holiday Spirit Children, and that goes to El Segundo Girl Scouts. I just smell Thin Mints in the air, don't y'all? Come on up. And Sheila has your trophy for you.
Okay. All right. Couple photos here, guys. One more. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, ladies. Our next award is Best Performers Children. We had a tie for this. Felton Elementary School. Come on, and this was their first time in the parade.
Well, you go first. Come on. You go, guys go first. And then I'll wait.
Look, pause, you guys. Say cheese. Adeline. Cheese. Sorry, thank you. Thank you. Sorry. You guys are like rock stars. Thank you.
All right, guys, here we go. And a couple more. One more. Thank you, guys.
And we have another Best Performers Children's Kelly Irish School of Dance. I don't think they are here. They are exhausted from Monday. We'll see if they show up by the time we're done. We have Best Performers Children Lusinger High School Code Blue Cheerleaders. Did Lusinger join us? All right. Best use of theme for the community civic El Segundo Kiwanis Club.
All right, here we go. And a couple photos. One more and one more. Thank you so much.
And don't miss their Chili Palooza coming up. What day? March 29th, Saturday. We have best use of a theme, business commercial, California Smash. Did the Smash guys join us? They were so excited. They were going to throw balls to y'all. Well, round of applause. Best use of theme, business commercial, Edco. Hey.
There we go. Here we go, guys. And one more. Thank you so much.
This next one's a crowd favorite, Best Holiday Spirit, Community Civic, Husky Huddle and Malamute Mingle SoCal. And a special guest.
You come first. Right? here. All right. Hey, puppy. Okay, good. All right, I think we got him. All right.
If you haven't seen their group, there's probably 50 dogs coming down the parade route. It's amazing and beautiful and wonderful. Thank you guys for coming. Best Holiday Spirit Business Commercial, El Segundo Brewing Company, a 5-peat winner. And Eli's not here. Guess I'll have to go down the brewery with that one. Darn. And then also Best Holiday Spirit, Richmond Bar and Grill. Did those guys make it? Yay! All right. And we have Best Performers, Adult, Dickens Christmas Carolers.
Okay, guys. A couple of photos here. One more. Thank you so much.
And we have one more. I'm not sure if they're here. The Best Musical Band, El Segundo High School, Marching Eagles. Who are you from? Lusinger. Yay, Lusinger has come. So our Best Performers Children, Lusinger High School Code Blue cheerleaders. Come on up.
You're more important than I am.
Thank you.
I get one too, right? Okay, here we go. And a couple, and thank you so much.
And I think that is everyone for today, unless they show up here in a bit. Thank you all for the time. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you next December on Main Street. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hanson. All right, Councilmember Giroux.
All right. Proclamation, City of El Segundo, California. Whereas the City of El Segundo designates April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and Peace Over Violence has declared April 23rd, 2025 as Denim Day in Los Angeles County, and whereas both events are intended to draw attention to the fact that sexual violence remains a serious issue in our society, and whereas more than 20 years ago, a 40-year-old driving instructor was convicted of sexually assaulting a teenage girl in Italy, the Italian Supreme Court overturned that conviction based on the legal theory that the girl must have consented to the assault because she was wearing tight jeans, and her tight jeans could only have been removed if she consented to sex. And whereas harmful attitudes about sexual violence allow these issues to persist and allow victims, survivors to be re-victimized, and whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Denim Day were also instituted to call attention to misconceptions and misinformation about sexual violence and the problem that many in society remain disturbingly uninformed with respect to issues of sexual harassment, assault, abuse, and rape. And whereas with proper education on the matter and comprehensive prevention projects, sexual violence and its unfair and traumatizing effects are preventable, and whereas the members of the City Council strongly support the efforts of Peace Over Violence to educate our community about the true impact of sexual harassment, abuse, assault, and rape in Southern California. And now, therefore, the Mayor and the members of the City Council of the City of El Segundo, California, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2025 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month and designates April 23rd, 2025 as Denim Day, and urges everyone to wear jeans on April 23rd to help communicate the message that wearing jeans is no excuse and never an invitation to harass, abuse, assault, or rape.
Thank you, Councilmember Giroux. Madam Clerk, public comments. Have we received any?
We have received one. I would like to invite Brian Shepard, please, to the stand.
Is this on an agendized item?
It is not.
Okay, 4 minutes, please, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you. My name is Brian Shepard. I am a longtime resident of El Segundo for over 35 years. I'm a property owner here, a local businessman. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak today, to propose actually an agenda item in the future. We lost a Canary Island pine on Main Street. I'm sure you're all aware of that. And so I wanted to discuss in a future meeting repurposing this beautiful tree and allowing it to be memorialized in some way, shape, or form. I'm hoping that we can discuss perhaps repurposing it, maybe a bench form or something of that nature, where it could be in a public space that people could reconnect with this tree once again. It was in Library Park for, as I'm sure you're aware, over 75 years, and it was originally planted by the Women's Club, and there are documentation of that. There's photos of that. It also served as the local community Christmas tree. It was decorated on occasion, and it overlooked Main Street and the high school. It was a beautiful site. I'm a nature lover. And when I heard this tree was going to be taken out a couple Mondays ago, and I understand, and I'm not here to debate that, but when I got wind of it, I quickly made some phone calls to see what the potential was for repurposing it and reclaiming it, and fortunately that was able to come to pass. We were able to connect with enough people, and through Andy Trotter of West Coast Arborists, we were able to salvage the tree, at least the tree trunk. So that is in possession of West Coast Arborists, and it's being brought to Angel City Lumber. And I've detailed some of this so that you guys can read a little bit about it, if things that I might not touch on. But in any event, there's over 16 streets in the city of El Segundo that are named after trees, and trees are important, and they're important in a way for us to connect with nature. And so I think it would be a great thing for the city to really get out in front of showing people that we can repurpose these trees, that they're not trash, that they're not mulch, that we don't just mulch them up and say goodbye, but that we can repurpose these things and they can be beautiful. There are modern architects that are doing amazing things. If you go to the One Hotel in Hollywood, there's amazing things that are being done with reclaimed wood, and Angel City Lumber is being featured in the news because they are one of they are the only place in LA where you can repurpose LA lumber and make beautiful items, whether it be a table, whether there's lots of options, and I'd like to discuss that in further detail with the council and with community members. You may be aware that there is a flyer that's going out, which is basically a letter written home from Milton C.I. Pine. So he's a Canary Island pine, and he lived here for 75 years. This letter that you may have received, because it's a grassroots effort, or we're just sort of disseminating the information as much as we possibly can by foot, because this came between city council meetings. And so the only way to kind of keep the momentum going and people who were upset about the tree being lost is to sort of say, hey, look, we can repurpose this. And we put together a fundraiser, and we have gotten support. And so I just would love if you guys would consider this as an agenda item, but more specifically, as a way that we can honor nature and the things that provide us such beauty and such joy over our lives, to maybe repurpose it and put it to good use.
Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. Are there any, that's your only comment?
Thank
Council
you.
Questions, comments?
Oh, I have no objection to putting on the agenda. I would ask Mr. Shepherd that if it does get put on the agenda, you show up with some concrete ideas for,
Oh, absolutely.
and is this a fundraiser that you want to plug on how people can donate to this right now?
Well,
Is there a website or a?
well, this is a GoFundMe page, and initially was inspired because I didn't know that there were any plans in place. There's a certain cost that I came to with Angel City Lumber as to what it is to just sort of do something, you know, and put it in a city building. And this is the figure that they came up with to cover costs. One of the costs is transportation from Ontario, where this tree is sitting now. And just so you know, it's over 45 feet of timber. Over, you know, it's a huge piece of timber, and there's, over 45 feet of it. So there's great potential, and it's not just a bench. There can be a design item that's made out of it. There can be a table. There can be slabs. I have lots of ideas, and if it does become an agenda item, I'd love to bring the owner of ACL here and explain to you guys what is possible and how El Segundo can sort of lead the way in how you can repurpose a beautiful tree. It's an amazing tree, and it should be honored in that way. So I'm hopeful that gets some traction and that maybe it gets passed around the community.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
City Manager, any comments?
Yeah, no, I'd just like to thank Mr. Shepherd. As staff, we have been working with West Coast Arborist in Angel City. We're waiting to see, I mean, as you know, the tree was unfortunately diseased, and that's why it had to come down. Beautiful tree, absolutely. And would love to bring something back if the council desires to talk about, you know, what portions of the trunk are salvageable, that are not diseased, to create some wonderful, pieces of art, if you will. So we'll agendize that in upcoming meeting.
Thank you, City Manager. All right, moving on to the procedural motion. I'll take a motion to read all ordinance and resolutions by agenda and title only.
So moved.
Baldino seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, consent agenda. Are there any pulls?
None
No,
for
not
me.
for me.
Very well. Would anyone like to approve the consent agenda, items 2 through 7?
Baldino so moves.
Second.
Giroux with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have 3 public hearings this evening, so we'll do these in order. Madam Clerk, was the time and place heretofore fixed for a public meeting? Was the proper notice given in a timely manner?
It was.
All right, has any written communication been received regarding the public hearing?
We did receive one piece of public communication.
Very well. What is that?
It was a letter from the president of the chamber.
Ah, very well, very well. Okay, so our item will be the first reading of an ordinance amending the El Segundo Municipal Code, Chapter 1534, regarding the cultural development requirement to provide artwork or pay an in lieu fee. City Manager, who will present on this item? I presume it's Director Allen?
Yes, Community Development Director Michael Allen.
There you are, the floor is yours.
Thank you, City Manager George. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. Before you tonight is consideration of first reading of 3 specific amendments to the Cultural Development Fee Program. We previously discussed this a few meetings ago, and just to remind everybody sort of how we got to where we're at. The fee program was originally adopted in 2019, but most recently in November, there was a general program description update from staff to City Council. And at that time, there was an ask to come back with specific amendments to the program and the administration of that program and introduce some flexibility
to the collection of the fee and the timing of the collection and the fee structure itself. So we did come back to the Planning Commission in January with several particular amendments, but three of which council felt there was general consensus and support to proceed with those amendments. And so the next order of business was to prepare that for Planning Commission consideration, since the Cultural Development Program lives in the zoning code. It gives the Planning Commission authority to preside over the structure of that language and make recommendations to City Council on that program as part of the zoning code. So first order of business was to hold a study session or a consideration public hearing with the Planning Commission, which we did on February 13th, which resulted in the Planning Commission making a recommendation to the City Council to approve the amendments that are proposed tonight. So very briefly, the three specific amendments that we prepared for council consideration tonight was the ability to split the fee between producing on-site art and paying the difference in the fee, establishing a fee cap of $1 million, and allowing applicants to defer the fee payment to final inspection or certificate of occupancy, whichever is applicable. So we've restructured the ordinance to reflect these three changes. Planning Commission did discuss the potential of allowing greater than the cap, or allowing a different structure that set a cap, and then allowing some other mechanism to collect the difference if it was above $1 million in another means via art or something along those lines. But they did end up landing on these specific amendments and sort of abandoned that substructure of splicing the fee with the on-site art and fee payment and a cap. They kind of moved away from that. So that summarizes the three amendments that we're making, or that we're proposing tonight, and here to answer any questions or explore any other alternative amendments, which we're happy to do. The comment letter sounds like there may be future discussions about the implementation and administration of the program. None of that's being proposed tonight per se, but it sounds like there will be an effort, or at least staff will hear from the chamber and maybe some folks on future potential amendments down the road.
Are there clarifying questions for Director Allen? All right, then the public hearing is now open for public input. How long is that letter from the chamber?
That letter from the chamber, 2 paragraphs.
Can we read that into the record?
We certainly can. This is dated March 18th, 2025. It's addressed to Mayor Chris Pimentel, Mayor Pro Tem Ryan Baldino, and the council members. On behalf of the El Segundo Chamber of Commerce, we would like to express our appreciation for your consideration of options for the cultural development percent for the arts fee. As we balance business attraction and retention with our shared commitment to provide residential and business community members with public spaces, structures, and experiences that enhance the character of the city through the inclusion of art, we welcome the city's interest in evaluating the program, engaging stakeholders, and making adjustments throughout this journey. The El Segundo Chamber has surveyed our members to ascertain the business community's understanding of the program, as well as solicit feedback on the current structure and suggestions for the program going forward. We are currently compiling the results and look forward to sharing those with the city and city leadership, as well as offering ourselves a resource to the city and the Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee. We value our partnership and look forward to offering additional feedback from our members. Thank you, Marcia Hanson, CEO, President, El Segundo Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Sure, Baldino, so moved.
Pimentel,
Keldorf, second.
Oh, Keldorf second. Keldorf for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Council discussion.
We debated this a while ago, and I think they're the same. 3 amendments we all agreed to, so I don't know if there's much more I've got to add to it.
Yeah, I would agree. It's
Yeah.
as we kicked it over, right, to Planning Commission?
Yeah, I think we talked it directly into the ground, and I'm glad that it has come back to us. City Attorney, would you please read the ordinance by title only? Title only.
An ordinance amending Title 15 of the El Segundo Municipal Code establishing public art or in lieu fee requirement and a cultural development fund is ready for introduction.
May I have a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
It's just
Keldorf on
it's
the
just
first.
introduction,
Oh, it's just an introduction?
yes.
You guys
It
are
is
funny.
so introduced by Keldorf.
This will be brought back at the next regular council meeting for potential adoption.
All right, now it is time for our second public hearing. This is a time and place heretofore fixed for a second public hearing. This is a resolution establishing a Southern California Edison Rule 20A undergrounding utility district along Lairport Street from Mariposa Avenue to Maple Avenue. City Clerk, was the proper notice of the hearing given in a timely manner?
Yes, it was.
City Clerk, has any written communication been received regarding this public hearing?
No communication has been received.
City Manager, who will present on this item? I
Yes,
presume it
so-
is Director Sassoon?
Yes, Elias Sassoon, Public Works Director.
Director Sassoon.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. So this item before you is the undergrounding of the utilities along Lairport Street. Give you a little background. This program 20A is a tariff that was established by the California Public Utilities Commission back in 1967, and that program governs the undergrounding of utilities. In order to do that, there are 5 conditions where one or more of these 5 conditions have to be met before this program could be undertaken. So the first one is if it would eliminate an unusually heavy concentration of overhead lines. The second is if it involves a roadway with high volume of traffic along that street. The third condition, if there are any ADA wheelchair ramp accessibility that is either impeded or limited because of the existing poles. The next condition is if it would benefit a civic or public recreational area, and the last one is if this is on a major roadway with lots of traffic. So giving you a little background about this, to continue, under this program, the Southern California Edison, at their full expense, they will design and they will make the construction, and they also perform the construction management, that means inspection during the undergrounding at their full cost for any Edison existing overhead electrical distribution lines or all the other fiber optic communication lines and anything that are on the poles. The only exception, the poles that are carrying transmission lines are not moved, they remain, and those lines are not undergrounded. So that's the only exception. And the reason for that, in case you're interested, undergrounding of transmission lines are extremely expensive, frankly. With respect to the location, give you a little background. A while back, there was a business who approached the city, and they wanted to relocate to Lairport. And the problem that they had to do with the capacity of the transformers that existed on the street. So by undergrounding the utilities along Lairport, the intentions are not to just underground the utilities, but also in a process try to upgrade the transformers capacities for future businesses that might want to relocate to Lairport. Just one thing that I would like to note, which is on this slide, the money from Rule 20A program will not pay for any upgrading of any transformer capacity. That would be a separate thing, and it has to be worked out between the city and Edison in advance. I took some photos, and I met with the Edison rep. So in the middle photo, the tallest The tallest pole on the middle picture is the transmission line, and there are two of them that are going to remain. The rest of the poles, as you can see, and all the all the wires above the ground between east and west side, all are going to go away. The only two poles that are going to be remaining are, as I indicated, are those two transmission poles. And also, I looked at the age of those poles. They're very old, close to about 100 years. So the guy from Edison told me we may even replace those poles because they didn't look very healthy, frankly. The photo to the left is a transmission pole. It's the tallest one. But as you can see, the cluttering and all the wires and all the poles all going to go away, with the exception of the transmission poles.
Could you just tell us which wires are the transmission wires, the ones on the very top?
Yes, So on the left photo, you see that the transmission pole, anything that is on that pole are considered transmission lines. Those are to remain. With respect to the funding, I must tell you, the cost of undergrounding utilities is very expensive. It's over $7 million per mile. Transmission lines is 2 or 3 times as much. So we had limited amount of budget available. So based on that, we decided we had no choice. We had to do Lairport in 2 phases. So the first phase is going to be from Mariposa to 600 foot to the north. And the second phase is going to be when and if, we'll be able to collect funding in the future. In order to do that, the city has to pass a resolution to establish an underground utility district before Edison goes to work. And that's why we are here tonight. And that's why this item is up. So after that is done, Edison will initiate the design. They will, what they do is they have predetermined or pre-qualified bidders that are invited based on the size of these lines that they invite to give a bid for undergrounding. And once they select that person, that contractor, they will award, and they also do the construction management, as I indicated. So it's all going to be at their cost. They will coordinate the design with other utility companies. So the city really doesn't have to do much of anything else, although we're going to keep an eye on them because we want to make sure the trench is repaired properly, and we're going to be involved anyway. So the project schedule, the design, they tell me it takes about 6 to 9 months, and then the construction could take as much as a year, but they try to finish it by 9 months is what they indicated to me. So the recommendation is, as it's noted on the staff report, is to adopt a resolution to establish an underground utility district along Lairport. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Madam Clerk, is there any public comment on this?
No, there is no public comment.
Would anyone like to close the public hearing before we interrogate the Public Works Director?
Sure, Baldino so moves.
Pimentel second. All in favor of closing?
Aye.
Aye. None are opposed. Let the Inquisition begin.
I do not have any inquisitions to make.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm
Get 'em.
happy to see that we're trying to bury some of these lines. I'm not surprised to see how expensive it is, and I'm ecstatic to see that someone else is paying for it. So thank you. Yeah.
Let me weigh in on this. That is a notable gap in our city of effective distribution. It is underpowered, and this was a significant effort to get Edison to do this. And their typical timeline is to do this in 36 months. So getting them to even have that on 18 months on the outing is a significant win. I was surprised, though, that because so much of the conversation was around the transformers, that's not included. transformers, that is a 36-month project to get a transformer. Do we know what a costing would that be and who would bear that? Is that a city expense or something we would look to have a user? Because as I understand it, right, a user can agree to a 10-year power agreement in which it would be, the transformer would be fronted by Edison, but the retail would effectively make that up over a 10-year period. Is that right?
Right, that, correct. But as part of this program, our intentions are to coordinate with their engineering section of Edison and try to upgrade all those transformers. And we could negotiate with Edison, but most likely we may end up paying most of the cost, if not all, unless there is already a business who is ready to go, and they might be willing to pay a portion for that particular location. But the fact that the ditches are open, the cost of upgrading would be significantly less if we do it during the undergrounding than not doing it and doing it, bit and pieces at a later date.
Do we think, is it likely that there'll be any transformers available? I would presume that with the rebuild in the northern part of the county, that every transformer on the planet's going to be ordered.
As soon as the design takes off, my plan is to meet with them and try to figure this all out, because you may be right. There might be, some time before they could be ordered. So we try to be as proactive as we possibly could be. But the very first step is for the city council to pass this resolution, and the rest of it we plan to keep track with Edison, and we'll follow suit, and hopefully they'll be responsive in our inquiries.
Do we have a sense of how long it takes to replenish those funds, those tariff funds that amass if we want to do phase 2?
I hate to say this, but from what I understand, they may phase out collecting more funds and put them in that account. In other words, it may go away. My hope is it doesn't. If it doesn't, it's going to take a few years before we have enough money to do the phase 2.
Deputy City Manager back there, is part of the CJF grant funding, that $125 million, if we decide to make a bid on that and it requires 8 to 9 subsidiary projects, this might be one that we would fold in and just ask for the $1 million to finish the second half of it as part of a jobs creation piece of it. One final question, and maybe this is probably better for the Mayor Pro Tem, maybe, because it might go into the history books. Didn't we used to have as part of our, if you rebuilt in the residential zone, you had to underground your distribution?
I don't think you had to underground, but the more modern houses, they just would do that per course. I don't think it's a requirement. But
Somebody just talked about this with me. I don't have any history behind it, but if it was a full rebuild, you had to, which is why sometimes people were keeping just a very small.
Yeah, the Prop 13.
Well, that also, but
Prop 13, got it.
if it all went, you had to underground.
Very well. Well, this one is to be adopted. Can I have, City Attorney, would you read the resolution by title only?
A resolution of the El Segundo City Council establishing the El Segundo Lairport Street Undergrounding Utility District, a Southern California Edison Rule 28 undergrounding district on Lairport Street between Mariposa Avenue and Maple Avenue is ready for adoption.
May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Keldorf on the first. Do we have a second?
Second.
Giroux on the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Seeing no opposed, the motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elias.
All right. Now we're on to public hearing number 3. This is the time and place heretofore fixed for a public meeting for the continued public hearing on an ordinance amending the El Segundo Municipal Code, Title 15, to update the parking requirements for multifamily residential development and implement Housing Element Program 9. City Clerk, was proper notice of the hearing given in a timely manner?
Proper notice was given in a timely manner.
Has there been any written public comment received?
We have received 5 pieces of communication.
Very well. We will cover those at the public hearing portion. Right now, looks like Paul Samaras is here to present. Is that accurate, City Manager?
Yes.
He's not just seizing the podium?
Yes.
Very well. The floor is yours.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Pimentel and fellow council members. This item before you is a municipal code amendment related to residential parking requirements. You considered an ordinance on this item at your last regular meeting. And as a refresher, Program 9 of our housing element calls for amending the multifamily parking requirements to a sliding scale based on the unit size. At your last meeting, we presented the Planning Commission's recommendation, which called for a sliding scale that matches the Pacific Commons specific plan parking requirements. In addition, the Planning Commission also recommended allowing multifamily uses to have up to 20% tandem parking. During your discussion on this item, you directed us to make two main changes to the draft ordinance. Number one, to continue to prohibit tandem parking in multifamily residential projects, and then to change the requirement, to increase the requirement for one-bedroom units from 1.5 to 2 spaces per unit, same as today's code, but maintain a lower ratio for the studio units, 1 per unit. And that would be for smaller projects only, up to 2 acres in size. Councilmember Keldorf suggested that 2-acre size threshold, and that's what we incorporated in the revised ordinance. We would appreciate it if you can confirm that specific number for us during your discussion. In addition to those changes, the council had a discussion regarding preferential parking zones and making properties ineligible for inclusion in those zones if they did not meet the city's current parking requirements of 2 spaces per unit. So the revised ordinance establishes 3 categories of properties that the city council can deem ineligible for inclusion when it forms future preferential parking zones. New multifamily projects, new single and 2-family projects that don't meet the 2 space per unit requirement, and any property subject to a development agreement. And this would all be subject to the council's discretion at the time that a new parking zone is formed. The council also discussed illegal garage conversions a bit during the public hearing, and the impact those have on street parking availability. So to address that particular concern that we heard at your last meeting, staff added a provision in the ordinance giving the Public Works Director discretion to deny or revoke permits for properties or dwellings where a garage was illegally converted. That was not specifically what you asked us to include in the ordinance, but there was a lot of discussion and concern about the issue, so that was sort of something that we kind of proactively included there. You can let us know if that's consistent with your thinking. But that is a summary of the revisions in the ordinance before you, and we would recommend that the council introduce an ordinance amending the residential parking requirements and schedule a second reading of the ordinance for April 1st. But we'd be happy to take any questions or comments or additional changes the council would like.
Are there any clarifying questions before we receive public comments?
I think the addition of 2 acres in there, and we can talk about this maybe after public comments. I don't know, my intention was that something over 2 acres would automatically trigger a development agreement, perhaps. But
Okay.
we can discuss how that comes into play.
Any
That's
any
helpful.
further clarifying questions? Madam Clerk, the 5 written comments, is there a theme among them, or are they all different, or?
No, they are quite similar to the correspondence we received last time. 4 of the 5 were posted to our website. We did receive one late today.
Is that one from Cheryl?
Yes.
Very well. Do we all receive that?
Yeah, we got the email.
Got it. Okay, then I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Baldino seconds?
Drew on the first, Baldino second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Council discussion. Councilmember Keldorf, over to you on your acres.
I think the intention was to maybe be a little conciliatory, like how we strike the balance between encouraging development on some sites where tandem might come into play to make it more feasible, but also addressing Mayor Pro Tem's, concern that we give that right off the bat versus making it a negotiable variance. And I don't have a very good understanding of how a development agreement, like what triggers the development agreement, because any developer can come in and request a variance of any kind, but at what point does that actually become a development agreement?
Well, you don't even need a development agreement. If you're just developing in the R3 and you've got a townhome and you're like, look, the way the lot is, I'm gonna need tandem and this is how it's gonna work. You can come in and have a hearing for the planning commission, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And you can ask for a variance, right?
But
The
if it's a
development agreement is-
variance, we can't say, we'll give you that, but you have to give us this. Whereas a
Right, right.
development-
Development agreements are more larger projects to where they're getting larger property rights and value for being able to either the density or the limited parking, and that gives us the right to kind of ask for a public benefit, whatever shape or form that is. I agree that it's very wishy-washy on how those things come together, and we could probably do a better job as a city of having a more transparent process for that. But I think for what we're talking about today, as far as amending our housing element, this moving to the sliding scale gets us into compliance, which is important. And then I had one concern. Well, let me wrap the thing about developments. Are we done talking about that? I want to make sure I've answered questions that have been asked.
It can be. We have to table it for a future agenda item that actually talks about development agreements.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Paul, for putting together what was a pretty all over the map conversation that we had. But I do like the end result. I do want to point out my only hesitancy was about the permits restrictions in the single family zone. But a single family house, the minimum is just 2 parking spaces, correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so I can't imagine anyone building a house that doesn't have 2 parking spaces. So I don't think that would be an issue. But for the multifamily and everything else that's in there, I really don't have a problem with these restrictions. Because unfortunately, we're going to see more pilot parking programs in different neighborhoods as we continue to grow and get more dense. It's going to be a reoccurring problem. So I think this helps amend the code now so it's a little bit clearer. I'm all for our code being as clear as possible, so I'm happy with these revisions.
Councilmember Giroux.
I'm happy with what I see.
Yeah, I am as well. I think that the central issue of parking sprawl from these developments, I think, is adequately addressed with some of the small p police powers within public works, or excuse me, within development on pulling people's permits. So I think that is adequate at this time. Is there any further council discussion on this? City Attorney, would you please read the ordinance by title only?
An ordinance amending El Segundo Municipal Code Article 8-5A to establish properties ineligible for preferential parking permits, and Chapter 15-15 to update the parking requirements for multiple family residential uses is ready for introduction.
Would anyone like to introduce this ordinance?
Happily.
Mayor Pro Tem Baldino introduces, and we will waive the first reading, and then on April 1st, we'll have the second reading. Is that correct?
It will be brought back for potential adoption and second reading at your next meeting on April 1st.
All right, so introduceth. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, now staff presentations.
Mayor?
Oh.
I'm sorry to
Oh,
interrupt.
Wait.
If, just because we're moving through this agenda so
Do
efficiently.
we have to de-introduce?
No. Before you move on to the next item, I really just want to take the opportunity, since Paul and Eduardo are both here for this item, just to thank these two, and particularly Paul and Eduardo as, the planning manager. We are year 3 in an 8-year housing element plan. And if you recall in Paul's previous presentation, there were 11 programs that we had to get through in those 8 years. Many of the things have to happen all year, every year for the next 8 years. But we have gotten through all 11 in 3 years. And that's a tremendous feat for any staff of any level, let alone the staff of our planning division. So Paul, thank you very much, and Eduardo, thank you. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Item 11, the El Segundo Police Department's 2024 year-end review. City Manager, who will present on this item?
Our police chief, Saul Rodriguez, will, I think, kick off this item.
Welcome, Chief Rodriguez.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. It's an honor to be here today to present to you some good news and what we're doing here in the police department, some of the staffing that we've been doing, and then give you an update as to what we're looking at right now for 2025. I will give you an overview as to what I'm going to be discussing. I'll talk about our staffing levels. I'm going to talk about Part 1 crimes and give you a 3-year comparison that kind of give you an idea as to what we're looking at, how we finished in 2024. I'll give you a breakdown of the data because the data can be all over the place. There's a lot of it in the police department. We have data on top of data for data. So I'll try to break it down so try to make sense out of it so it's easy to digest. And then I'll give you an idea as to what I believe are some of the things that have really led to our reduction in crime. Some of the efforts the police department has been doing, and then I'll give you a preview of 2025 crime data. But before I start, I want to show you the recent photo of our police department. This was taken on March 1st of 2025, recently. This is everybody from our sworn staff to our professional staff, minus a few members who could not make it for various reasons, and then 3 people that we had in the academy. But this is your staff. These are the people that are doing the work every day, day in and day out, 3 o'clock in the morning. As you can tell, the people are in blue are our sworn officers. The people in our blue uniforms are our professional staff, and then we have our wonderful ESVP volunteers. They're in the white. Without them, this work couldn't happen. So I thank them for all the work that they do every day and every day that we come to work and get the job done to keep our community safe. When it comes to sworn staffing levels, as you know, we're authorized to hire up to 72. I currently have 66 officers, and that includes people in the academy. I've got a total of 4 that are either in the academy, going to the academy, and then additional 8 officers that are currently in the training officer program. So there's a lot of work that's been happening. When you look at how many people have been hired, in 2022, we hired 9 officers. In 2023, we hired 10. In 2024, we hired 21. I have personally, since I've been here, almost going on a year, I've hired 16. That's a lot of people being hired. You might be thinking, okay, we should be at that 72 number. Not everybody we hired makes it through the training program. Not everybody makes it through the academy. And we've lost some through retirements and or resignation. As you know, I took over for my predecessor, Chief Bermudez. He retired, so I replaced him. We had 1 officer resign to go to join the FBI. And then we had a few that, again, who just as soon as they get to the training program, they start a day or 2 into the academy, and they say, this is not for me, and they kind of hang it up and they leave. Sometimes that happens. So we had 9 individuals who either didn't make the training program or decided to go somewhere else. I will tell you that of the 21 that we've hired, you have 13 entry-level officers, and we have 7 laterals that were hired. So the incentive program we have for the laterals is definitely working, and I want to thank you for allowing us to do that. That's something that's continued to attract good quality candidates to come to your police department. So crime, what are we looking at for crime? As you can see here, based on the numbers are looking at a total 18% reduction in crime in what we call Part 1 crimes. Part 1 crimes are divided into 2 different categories. You have property crimes is the bottom one, and you have top crimes, crimes against persons, which are typically your more violent type of crimes. I will break some of those numbers down, but again, as you can see, in 2022 to 23, we saw a 14% increase in Part 1 crimes. 23 to 24, that number again flipped. We have an 18% drop, decrease in crime, which I think is a good direction that we're going in. When I look at crimes against persons, again, an 18% drop. You're looking at sexual offenses, halfway reduction, 50% reduction. Robbery, again, went down from 29 to 22. And then we saw the assaults go down. I'm going to break down all those numbers so it kind of makes sense so you know where those numbers are coming from, so you have an idea as to why we're seeing the dip. The first one is the robberies. We had a total of 22. Of the 22, 13 are we categorize and call Estes robberies. This is when an individual is trying to do a shoplifting, trying to steal something as small as a piece of gum. They then encounter an employee or a security guard and get into a struggle, or they basically say, I'm going to steal this stuff, and they fight and sue, something of that nature. We had 13 of those. Those are called Estes robberies. We had 9 of your traditional type of robberies. Of those 9, 4 were involving a suspect who was armed with a handgun. I can tell you that did happen. And there was 3 incidents where cell phones were taken. There were 2 where juveniles were trying to steal an e-bike during the process of a theft. Of that, we've had 45 clearance rate, meaning there was arrest on almost half of the incidents that took place, which is good for detectives that followed up and did the work to get the arrest to happen in this particular cases. Feel free to ask any questions if you need a clarification on any of this. I try to keep it as simple as possible when it came to the Estes robbery and trying to explain that. I know it can be a little difficult at times. When you look at this number, it can be a little daunting when you look at 137 assaults that happen. 58 are the aggravated assaults, meaning either felony types where injury did occur. 79 are what we call simple assaults. But when I break down that data for that, we're looking at 19 of the aggravated assaults are a result of a dating or married or domestic violence type of situation that typically happens in a home. We had 19 of those. We had 7 incidents in where officers were assaulted when they were arresting somebody. Either officers or firefighter personnel or emergency medical technicians were assaulted, 7 of those. And then we have 9 incidents involving a homeless population. So 9 of those were homeless related. I have additional breakdown if you'd like. 5 were road rage related. So a road rage occurred, and then assault happens. When it comes to the simple assaults, we're looking at a total of 35 of those were related, again, to domestic violence type of situations. Typically, that's when again, a family or formerly dating relationship happens and then they get into assault of some sort. We had 4.
Chief, are we seeing any geographic concentration on those?
No.
Historically, we would see these around hotels.
I got the hotel
past.
data here for you. I think there was 9 that took place in hotels.
That's significant change.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I have here. 41% were arrests for that data. 14 incidents, again, involving the homeless population for the misdemeanor type assaults that happened throughout the city. Again, 5 additional involving family disturbances, involving the children and stuff of that nature when assault did occur in that particular incident. What's really driving our crime picture is property-related crime. It's roughly 85% of our crime that happens in the city, with 52% of it from theft alone. As you can see, that number 560, that's high. But we did see a decrease from year to year, from 23 to 24. The burglaries are high, but again, I'm going to break that down when it comes to the number of 218, which again, we went from 269 to 218. And the arsons, I'll give you a breakdown on those too as well, and the stolen vehicles. So of the 218 total burglary incidents, we had 31 that involved carports. So in other words, I would recommend that if you're a community member, you're listening to this, please make sure you secure your property. Don't leave it out in the open. If you have a garage, close it, because people go into the burglary, go into the carport, they steal stuff. They're looking for e-bikes, they're looking for bicycles, anything that they get their hands on. Crime of opportunities are what we're trying to prevent. 15 of these incidents occurred when a home was under construction. 1 occurred during a fumigation, and/or people were on vacation. So I will, again, another community tip. If you know you're going to be on vacation, call us. We offer the program where you can check on your home when you're on vacation. ESVPs, those young wonderful people that I showed you in the beginning in the white, can come out and check your home to make sure we can prevent any particular crime from occurring in your residence. Commercial burglaries, we saw 67 of those. There's no, again, rhyme or reason to this one. This one, 31 of those were at storage facilities. So they're looking to get into storage lockers, stuff of that nature. We had 9 incidents that occurred at hotels. And then we had organized retail crime. That's where, again, 1 or more persons are looking to try to commit a theft. We had 104 of those that occurred throughout the region, and mainly at the point in Plaza where we're seeing the primary incidents that are occurring. We work regularly with them to try to prevent any future crime from occurring, and anything we can do to try to get that number as low as possible, that's the best thing we can try to do, but that number was at about 104.
Chief, is that number for the organized theft, is that down over 2023, or is it up?
Yes, sir, down. The ORC theft, I believe, last year.
I know we've deployed a lot more resources. You know,
We have. I'm going to give you a breakdown on what we did for the holiday deployment. That'll show you a little bit of how the difference we made with the deployment that we had for that particular time. Yes.
Chief, on any of these, be it the theft or simple assaults, are we seeing repeat customers? Is it the similar individuals over and over?
I'm going to cover something that we've done to try to prevent that here in our city when it comes to magistrate reviews, which not a lot of cities have done because it does require extra work. And thankfully, my predecessor thought about doing this, and we've been doing it for over a year and a half now. And I think it's really made a difference in what we do.
Thank you.
So again, we also had 30 wallet thefts. That occurs with our South American theft groups that are here that randomly go to restaurants to try to do their best to try to organize themselves and steal wallets, steal cell phones, stuff of that nature. That definitely is occurring as well. We had about 110, this is a theft record. 110 thefts from buildings where they're looking for copper wire, mail, packages, bikes from offices, electronics, things of that nature. Again, the 560 thefts that had occurred, 17% of those were from vehicles. So 176, that's a lot. Another reminder to our public, if they are parking their car, lock and secure it. Do not leave laptops around. Do not do anything to allow for opportunities to come in and steal your property. Anything we do to try to avoid that, I think is paramount. It's important for us to do that. We would highly recommend that you park your car if it's at night somewhere where it's lighted, visible, anything you can do to try to prevent any future thefts from occurring. I thought I had heard a question coming. Okay. Stolen vehicles. If you own a Kia and a Hyundai, that's been targeted the highest. 31% of those are Kias and Hyundais. I've asked what is the rhyme or reason behind that. No idea why that's occurring, but those seem to be the highest targeted vehicles here in our city. We had 116 stolen vehicles here in our city. 51 were recovered. 35 were attempted stolen vehicle thefts, where 30 are still outstanding. We haven't found them or have been recovered at this point.
Do we count e-bikes as vehicles for the purpose of this?
Yes. Arsons. If there's any questions about the arsons, we've had 3 that were homeless encampments, 2 that were incidents involving juveniles dealing with fireworks, and 1 was a spree of 5 fires set by an unknown person. So we still don't know who committed that arson in that particular area.
So, Chief, the reason why Kias and Hyundais are the most stolen is because they lack any kind of anti-theft device as standard on the cars.
That's
Whereas pretty much everything else, every other car, you're going to have it as a standard one. So Kias and Hyundais don't have them.
Anything we can do to try to prevent
Yeah,
it.
so.
You know, go back to the old locks. Remember those locks that we can put on? If you can do that too, that'd be definitely beneficial for us to try to prevent.
On the steering wheel?
crime. Yeah. Well, I forgot what they were called. The club, there you go. Yeah. All right, what are we doing to try to prevent crime? And what have we been doing in 2024? We host a monthly crime meeting, which includes my staff, all our command staff, supervisors, detectives, where we come in and we talk about what crime we're seeing and what crime happened last year in the same time period and try to predict what can potentially happen, put staff in the area where crime has occurred. I recall in one particular month, we saw a cluster of crimes occurring in the northwest section of the city. We immediately deployed resources there, put decoy cars out there, and we saw the next month it was gone. So it went away, we didn't see the same type of crimes occurring in that area. We do a lot of tactical action plans, which is when we have special operations conducting various enforcement throughout the area. They will do traffic enforcement. This is more e-bike enforcement, distracting drivers, things of that nature that do occur. We do patrol division, has done multiple TAPS, tactical action plans, dealing with residential burglary, doing anything we can to prevent crime from occurring in the area. We have our professional staff going out there with their lights, making sure that we do everything we can to prevent the crimes from occurring in that area that we see happening. We do organized retail theft at the Plaza and Point kind of efforts to make sure that we can combat that from happening. We've done 8 of those throughout the area. A lot going on. So in the holiday deployment, like I mentioned, I said there was a drop of 30% decrease, basically what we did following the Thanksgiving period into Christmas. We put additional resources in the area of the Point, Plaza, PCH corridors to make sure we can prevent crime. We saw a 30% reduction this past year in those areas because of what we've done. We did see a noticeable difference in the ORC being organized retail crime that did occur. My thoughts on that are that they probably see us in and around the area. They then probably say want to go somewhere else. So by seeing additional resources, seeing our personnel out there, they will go somewhere to a different location. Okay, magistrate review. Okay, what is that? That's the process wherein after we arrest somebody, as you know, we were in the kind of the position where they do no bail, so everybody was getting cited out. So before I got here, the chief made the decision that everybody we arrest would be subject to a magistrate review, which is a good thing. This past year, we had 75 of them. Of the 75, 71 were approved. 4 were not, simply because three of the 4, they already had a bail amount, so we didn't need to do that. The one that did not get approved was one who had a prior DUI case with a 459 prior. The judge made the decision to cite them out, so that did not happen. I'm sorry, do I have some water by any chance? Oh, perfect.
So can you explain what would happen if we didn't have the magistrate review?
They would be out immediately.
They would immediately
They would
just
be cited out. I think the decision to do that was extremely important and beneficial to our city. Our department's been doing that for about 16 months or so. It does require additional work, about another hour or 2 of work, but it's well worth it, in the sense that at least at the minimum, that individual that we arrested stays in custody and has to go to court for an arraignment period. So sometimes it can be 48 hours or more. So by doing that, the individual is held accountable to their action and not just immediately cited out and released. Extremely important for us to do that, and I think it's really helped us in what we're trying to do and get done. We've also seen an increase in productivity across the board when it comes to the work that we're doing. When I talk about increased productivity, as you can see, in 2023, we had a total bookings of 988. 2024, we had 1,267. That's an increase of 28%. That means the officers out there doing the work. We saw an increase in citations being written, both traffic citations and citations in general. We went from 2168 to 2815, an increase of 30% of productivity coming from your police officers. Calls for service remains pretty static, not much change. An increase of maybe about 300 calls for service total that we saw, from 30,746 to 31,008. So not much change in that category necessarily in the calls for service. But when I look at that number, that's telling me that my officers out there doing the work day in and day out are productive, their morale's good, and they're doing what we need to get done to keep our community safe. On to what 2025 is looking like. Numbers looking real good. We already saw an 18% drop from 23 to 24. Currently, we're looking at a 46% decrease even from the numbers that we saw from 2024, meaning so far year to date, we've only had 113 Part 1 crimes versus in 2024, we saw 209. So the numbers, again, are continuing to drop. I think this is, again, a product of the environment that we've created, where we have more officers on the street. We have more officers being productive, doing the police work. We're doing our actions to make sure that we provide make officers the opportunity to go out there and affect crime wherever we see it occurring, and doing everything we can to prevent it from increasing. I hope we stick with these numbers and they continue to stay there and we continue to drop low. As you know, any crime for me is too many, but not possible to be at 0. But this is very reassuring that to me to tell us that we're doing the right thing and the direction is going properly to what we need to go. Thank you for your time. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask now. And there's plenty more data that I have here, but I try to keep it as quick and simple, as easy as possible. But again, I'm very proud of the work that's being done. I think an 18% drop in Part 1 crimes is very, very, very good work being done out in the street, in the field.
And do you think the magistrate review has the effect of kind of word getting around that you probably don't want to get arrested?
I would hope so. I would hope so. I think it does. When you talk about either you're going to see a police officer, you're going to run into a police officer, and if you get arrested, you will be held accountable to for your actions. I think that holds true to why we are not seeing increases that other areas may be seeing. And I think it's additional work for our officers and for our supervisors, but we will willingly do it to make sure that we prevent crime in our city.
Thank you. Kristen, would you say it's too early to tell if there's any positive impact of a deterrent from Prop 36 passing last election cycle, or is that factored into the 2025 numbers yet?
I've heard from our detective bureau that they're getting a lot more filings, which is good. When you talk about more your lower level crimes, that wasn't occurring. And now officers are actually getting subpoenaed again to go to preliminary hearings, which wasn't happening. That's a sign of good direction that enforcement and basically the judicial system is moving forward with crimes that we're arresting people for. So I do think, yeah, Prop 36 will definitely benefit us. Keep people in custody if they need to be in custody. It will deter crime and criminals from continuing to commit crimes because they know now they're going to be held accountable for their actions. So yes, I do think at the end of the year, we will see some reflection on that.
Thank you.
Chief, closure rates, do you have enough, do you like the mix you have with patrol versus detective work? Or are there things that we can do? I know we contract with the sheriff's department for some levels of investigations. Are there things like that that would help with the closure rate if we increased our contract?
The way it works now, they only really help us out should we have a homicide. I don't want to have a homicide in our city. We haven't had one since 2022.
I was dancing around that part of it.
Yeah, that's the only way that we can get assistance from the sheriff's department. Other than that, again, our staffing our closure rates are about 45% at times, 41%. It's pretty good in comparison to what I've seen in other cities. But we do need more help. And again, as we get our staffing levels up to the full 72, meaning everybody's out of the academy, everybody's off of training, there will be more additional resources available to investigations that will be sent to that division.
We'd looked previously at going from the traditional 3 beats to 4 if we had staff that allowed. Do you see an advantage to that, or are we currently doing a 3.5-ish beat?
It kind of already is there, but I do see the benefits to a 4th beat because there's a lot more work happening on that sector that only because the beat 3 area is all of everything east of PCH. And as you know, we have the theater now, we have the shopping center. I'm hearing there's another shopping center potentially coming. So there's a lot of work there. So to have a beat just cover a smaller area would be beneficial, for sure.
And I know that you are onboarding new technology. Do you have the number of staff to implement that technology, or will you use a PSO to work the drone or things like that?
The working of a drone will be through a sworn police officer just because it allows us to build the program appropriately, meaning so that officers are confident with the program. It's almost like in helicopter, they have the tactical flight operator that's in the helicopter. It's the same concept, but we could have civilian staff help us with other things, such as sometimes you need somebody to monitor the drone at times. They can help us with that definitely, so you don't have to be a sworn officer to do that.
And what's the timeline for that particular piece of technology coming aboard?
They're gonna load what was approved already, the flock, we call it the Nest, next week. It should be up by Monday. It's gonna give me a little time for our pilots to get used to the system and the technology. I would anticipate that we're up and flying, using the technology appropriately, up and running by maybe late April. We're in the process, and it requires some training, requires officers to get used to the technology, understanding how it works, but once it's up and running, definitely you're all invited to come see it. You'll see the benefits of the program. It's a great technology that I think is gonna change the way we see police work here in the city and the way our officers are being assisted with that technology for sure.
And are you invited on the Chamber of Commerce when they send out things for new businesses on ribbon cuttings? I know we had a pretty high value organization come in and open a business, and I think those introductions historically have borne fruit. So they understand what sort of the expectation, what you guys need from them to provide support, but also, it's one thing to have a retail. It's another thing when you have, a large entertainment venue that might be, that's if it's fully licensed, at 2 a.m. you could have some winners. Those organizations are worth making liaison with. Are you invited to all those chamber events?
Not all of them. I do sometimes the city manager makes me aware, Barbara Voss will tell me, or through word of mouth. I did go to a Chamber of Commerce. I think they had a luncheon maybe about 2 months ago. I did attend that. We provided a kind of information on the Patches program at that time, and I answered a bunch of other questions for them. So I'm open to go to anything I need to do to make sure that we spread the words and that people know where we're at, and as far as what police work is happening, what we're doing out there. Definitely, I want to go to as many events as I possibly can.
Deputy City Manager, can we prod the chamber to make sure the chiefs are added to that distribution list for new stuff? Parfait. Anything further for the chief?
Nothing. Great news. Great report. Great job. Keep it up. Thank you very
sir.
much for everything.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much,
Appreciate
Chief.
Thank you for the water, sir. Appreciate it.
That was a very Chris Pimentel gift. I did not buy it. All right. Item 12, this is our notice to intent to withdraw membership from the Independent Cities Risk Management Authority. Director Reddick, I know we spoke at some length about this. The floor is yours.
Got to put it down here. Chief's a lot taller than me. So as you said, this is a notice of intent to withdraw from, we call it ICRMA, so that's the Independent Cities Risk Management Authority. So the ICRMA is a risk-sharing pool for cities that want to pool their resources to purchase insurance programs. The city of El Segundo has been a member of the ICRMA since 1985, and we participate in all of the programs. Those include general liability, workers' compensation, property equipment, auto physical damage, flood, crime, cyber, and terrorism. So currently the ICRMA has 13 members plus El Segundo, so a total of 14 members. And with the bylaws, if we want to leave the pool, we have to provide notice prior to the fiscal year for the following fiscal year to leave the pool. We want to put in our notice of intent at this time so that we can explore other options for, possibly joining a different pool or looking at purchase insurance directly ourselves. If for some reason after we perform our analysis and our study of the feasibility of remaining or leaving the pool, we have to provide notice if we want to stay in to ICRMA by December 1st of this year. This process is really a best practice process. It was done 2 years or 3 years now, 2022, by the prior CFO, Joe Lilio. They did an analysis, and at that time, we decided to remain in the pool. I'm available if you have any questions.
Council questions?
Not a question, but just to be sure, we have to give notice and then we have time to shop around. If it doesn't
Yes.
work out, we can rescind the notice and stay in here.
By December 1st of this year.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Director Reddick, how many members are there currently in ICRMA?
There are 13 plus El Segundo. The members are Adelanto, Bell, Downey, El Monte, El Segundo, Fullerton, Glendora, Hawthorne, Huntington Park, Inglewood, Linwood, San Fernando, Santa Ana, and Southgate.
And 10 years ago, how many members were there?
As I understand it, there's been up to a total of 30 members.
So our pool of risk has shrunk, and that does not adequately distribute risk, in my view. So I wholeheartedly endorse this.
We do have, the pool has gone through some changes. We do have a couple of members have already given their notice to intent to withdraw from the pool from the 14 that we have now. And we also have gone through there's a hired company that manages the risk pool. So we have changed the companies from RPA to a new company called Sedgwick, and that was effective March 1st.
Does our new risk manager have any facility with ICRMA, or are there any other insurers that with whom she's worked? Do we know?
She has worked with Sedgwick in the past for workers' comp. We do get workers' comp through ICRMA. We currently use Corvell. We recently switched to Corvell from AdminSure for our work comp coverage.
I second that one as well. All right. Would anyone like to? I guess we have to have a resolution on this, right? No?
Yes.
Do you need to read that? I would encourage it.
Mayor and council, a resolution authorizing the city manager to provide written notice to withdraw from the Independent Cities Risk Manager Authority is ready for adoption.
So moved.
Keldorf on the first. Do we have a second?
Second.
Giroux on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
No opposed. It passes 4-0. And we forgot to receive and file the chief's report. Do we have consensus to receive and file it?
Yes.
Yes.
Not just one?
Both.
Okay. We're both going to receive it and file it. All right. Item 13 is Planning Commission appointments. We had a dynamite pool of people for Planning Commission. I mean, that was the most contentious and spirited commissioner piece. And I would like to welcome Steve Taylor and Melissa McCaverty, both of whom applied, and will join on. The Planning Commission is our most, among our most, but probably our most powerful commission, and I would like to welcome them aboard. Anyone have any comments,
Yeah.
anything like that? I mean, it's an announcement from me.
Happy to
I
have
can
a
go for
full
hours.
planning commission. Do we know when when they get sworn in and they're official?
Yeah, they're waiting for us.
All right, then we polygraph them. All right. It beeth so announced. Okay.
Makes it official.
Makes her. Okay, City Clerk, do you have any reports?
No report.
All right, Councilmember Keldorf, you have an item 14. The floor is yours.
I do. I'm getting my sea legs up here. So it's worded not incorrectly, but the ordinance in general, I think, is perhaps, or the emergency order, perhaps a little confusing. Governor Newsom enacted an emergency order, the intent of which is to penalize price gouging post-fires, Palisades Fire, Eaton Fire, to make sure that people who are displaced are not renting homes and being charged, an exorbitant amount. So that on the surface is fantastic. There was an extension of that March 7th, I believe, and there's a little bit of a caveat, a carve-out for certain zip codes to be exempt, not from the rent increase cap, but from, to me, a hidden part of Penal Code 396 that says, ordinarily, there's a fair market value rent established. So say that you did not rent your home last year, you now decide to rent your home. It actually caps not an increase, but the total amount that you can rent your home for based on small area fair market value. So there's a calculation here. It exempted the ordinance or the executive order exempted a number of cities, including Beverly Hills, Manhattan Beach, Malibu, Cerritos. El Segundo is not included in that, but just to give you a magnitude, if you were to rent a 4-bedroom home and it's 160% of fair market value, and then you get some inflators if it's furnished, the most you could rent it for would be around $10,500, which I know sounds like quite a bit, but is definitely not on par with what some of our communities are. So if you've never rented your home and you were doing it for the first time, no matter how big it is, that would be it. And so I would like to propose that we lobby the governor to add El Segundo to that list of excluded zip codes. Again, not saying that we are excluded from rent increases, but setting the ceiling on what your first go could be.
And to clarify, that would, the governor's order and the exemption is only for single-family properties that have 4 bedrooms or more and that haven't been put out to rent for the last 12 months. So it's a narrow exception. So, and the point of that was to encourage, the governor was trying to encourage, according to what he said, was for people to put their new home or newer homes that haven't been rented out recently out on the market to make them available for those that are looking for places to rent.
But we have to be one of these zip codes to get that exemption.
Right, and you currently are not listed as one of the zip codes. And I think that was based upon some arbitrary number that was picked as far as what this, I'll call it HUD rent was. And so they just picked certain zip codes, and El Segundo is surrounded by zip codes that were picked. And I just think it was sort of arbitrarily, and you can certainly ask the governor to include you, and I think there's logic to that.
And is that the protocol that we would do? We would just basically ask our governor through our state officials, you guys forgot about El Segundo?
Right, and explain why you think it's fair that you would be added to that.
And then if as I read it, he made his order and then made several subsequent orders, so he'd have to make another order to add us in.
He's done already 2 this month. He's done at least 4 since the fires, and maybe more. I didn't track every one of them. There's been at least 4, so to add another zip code wouldn't seem to be a really big deal. In fact, he's amended this particular section, I think, at least 4 times.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Councilor Drew?
I concur.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really out of my depth on the Wickets of Home stuff, but I did not foresee. I mean, you can understand the logic behind trying to encourage people to turn their homes over, but it would seem like the arbitrary nature of the sort of pick a number is not reflective of actual market conditions. So I think that I've zero objection. All right, we have council consensus to direct staff.
Thank you.
You are so directed.
He directed.
Councilor Drew. Oh, anything further? Sorry, Councilman Cutler.
Actually, one other thing, not obviously agendized, but wanted to get temperature on proposing for a future agenda item that we get a summary snapshot of hiring, vacancies, open positions, how long they have been open, and what we could potentially do to help HR with their limited current staffing and getting those filled.
City Manager, is that report already sort of underway?
I'll double check with Rebecca, but she has a kind of a running list of vacancies that I'm sure we can provide.
Any objection to that? That would seem like incredibly relevant, given.
No objection. If I could add on, there's a discussion about the onboarding process itself. Having high school children who have applied at the Parks Department is taken a very long time. I understand that we have to do our due diligence and there's background checks and all of that, but I'd be curious to see that component addressed as well.
Okay.
Anything further?
That's it.
Councilor Giroux.
And for another future agenda, hopefully this one in the next 2 weeks. This is something, I don't know if Allie's around, but I did tell her I was going to bring this up. There's a couple of things that we've been discussing up here for a long time, and I'm kind of waiting to see the metrics on it. And the first one, I know that the aquatic subcommittee has probably seen all this stuff, but it's on the aquatic center. And one of the main reasons why I'm bringing this up is we're going to have a second pool coming online. I know we've hired a third party to kind of tell us what we're supposed to be doing, but one of the things I'm concerned about, or really, not really concerned about, I want to see and have transparency on it is the user group metrics of the clubs and teams and things that we have and program that we have at the aquatic center. 5+ years ago, when we set rates and we sent who gets what and things like that, it was based off of how many people from El Segundo are in your program, how big is your program, how it's growing. So one of the things that we're going to have to look at in the future as we try to figure out how we're going to manage two pools and try to get some revenue generation out of this, or cost recovery on this, is are we in a good situation with the user groups we have? Are they moving forward? Are they moving backward? What is it really like? So I know that there's been a report, I think that you already did, about what do the numbers look like in these groups, but have they been audited? That's one thing I want to look at, because not throwing too many stones out there, but I don't want the numbers plumped up to look like one thing when it's really something else. So I really would like to look into, have that report. I think that's already done, kind of presented here. And again, the rationale is it was discussed up here initially. So I think there needs to be some transparency on that. The second thing is, as we start looking at what Park and Rec or the recreation is going to look like, as far as, in particular, the tennis courts, pickleball courts, paddle court, I would really like to see an overview of what does the data tell us? How many reservations are being made? What is the revenue generation? What are the tournaments, leagues, all those things right like that? Because as we start making decisions on Rec Park again, do we have the right distribution of courts based on what the data is actually telling us and not based on a legacy decision? All right, I believe that when we look at these numbers, it's going to tell us something, and I just want to know what that is. Because as we start getting people in here to tell us what we should be doing, those numbers should be part of the equation. So I would just like, and there's nothing, what I'm asking for here, honestly, if we don't already have it, there's a problem. So there should be no reason, as far as I'm concerned, to be able to discuss this as an agendized item or have a report from Ally at the next council meeting. Do you see any particular issue getting that together?
No, I believe they have that information.
All right, so that's just my idea. I think it's important to start talking about this now, or you're gonna have a second pool coming online in a few months. And then of course, we're gonna have decisions being made on Rec Park. Any objection?
I have no objection to that. I will note that Monday's aquatic meeting, they did report on the scores from the user group, so I just forwarded you that agenda. You can take a look at it. But if if you want staff to give an aquatics update, that's fine with me too.
Yeah, I understand the scores. The scores, I think, are part of it, but I'm also interested in, we're obviously making huge investments in what we're doing. We're investing in aquatics. We're investing millions and millions and millions of dollars. So I just want to make sure that the user groups that we have are also making an investment, meaning they are the people you want to be with going forward, based on numbers, based on ideas, how they see things going forward, et cetera. I just think it's important before we make, final decisions on that.
I have this magical idea that Rec 1 will just have an export, a CRV file that we can just use, but
I would love that, but I don't think that's the case.
I'm terrified of asking.
So is that something you think we can pull off? All right.
And I'll just let you know from the aquatic subcommittee, the goal of the consultant is to look at use of the plunge, but also the selection of user groups. And then I said, well, we should look at it two ways. One is, are we going to treat the plunge like we do the aquatic center? And by that, I mean, that is a cost recovery facility. That's what we've told staff it should be. Or is the plunge something else? Is it a subsidy? Is it a public service? And so I hope that report comes back and says, if you want to charge full freight, this is what your swim class is going to look like. This is what open swim. And if you want to subsidize it, so that we can have a policy discussion about, what do we want to do with this new swim facility?
All right. Other than that, I got nothing.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Baldino.
Yeah, I'll talk about the Wolf
Wolf
ribbon
it-
coming. Thank you, Marcia Hansen. We had a company, Wolf, open their doors here on Grand Street. It is a 100-year-old company 190-year-old company based out of London, designing high-end quality jewelry holders and those fancy watch winders. A beautiful new office, and speaking with the owner, I asked why El Segundo. And he had a facility that had both warehousing and office. Once they outsourced the warehouse, he was looking at just office space, and he said El Segundo was selected, one, because of its tax structure, and two, because of where they're located in Smoky Hollow. They think everything is walkable compared to where they came from. So they're very happy to be here. Thank you, Marcia, for putting that on, and happy to have them. The second is, let's put Milton the Tree on the agenda if we could. And I think the conversation we should have is, if this is going to happen, is this going to be under our Arts and Cultural Committee that has money? Or is this going to be our Parks and Rec subcommittee that deals with how Parks and Rec works? So I don't mind this coming back as pros, cons, what are the costs, and just decide if there's anything the city is interested in or not. So if there's consensus to discuss it, let me know.
Drew is in. Keldorf, thoughts on Clarence the Tree?
Absolutely. Bring it back.
Milton the Tree, sorry.
Milton the
Milton the Canary Tree. Canary Tree? All right.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank
You've
you.
got three. Tree makes the agenda. A couple things. One, city manager, keep an eye out. Rolling Loud went pretty well in terms of acoustics. I will say on Sunday at my house, and granted, I mean, acoustics are an interesting thing, but I could hear it, but it wasn't like the last one. But this also wasn't the doozy.
That wasn't the big.
So it's worth letting our neighbors know that this was not, it was still audible. So I have great foreboding for the summer Baldino birthday party. I think people are starting to note that the 105 construction is now moving west of the 110. That is to add a lane so when they go to express lanes on the 105, there will be 2 express lanes. The lanes will all become narrower, but there'll be 2 4-pay express lanes like you see on the 110. That is not us. Throwing myself at the mercy of the 3 people watching at home. That's not us. And when we engage at the transportation meetings with Metro, it is just part of their rollout of this structure to make HOV lanes express lanes, whether or not it may or may not fit a particular rush hour alleviation piece. The pain of putting these lanes in is going to be significant over the next 2 years if you are a 105 user. And if you are a 105 user east of the 110, that stretch between the 110 and the 710, I mean, load up on books on tape, because it's not going to be pretty. And, you know, I mean, Eliza's seen me, I mean, everything but waving the bloody shirt and begging these guys, but they're looking at me like, you know, yeah, like I wanted to park a diesel truck in the middle of Yosemite or something. I was like, no, guys, this is just not going to work. But that notwithstanding, it's not us, and it's going to hurt. For 2 years of construction, I mean, there's going to be some full lane closures at night, ramps closed. The first phase is to add telemetry to this, so it can be a smart road to get a better sense of traffic flows. All of that requires utility work on both sides of the freeway. So the entire thing, let's just all hope for the best. SCAG stuff for fellow council people. Make sure you check your email and see there are opportunities to serve at some neat committees. It's how I learned a little bit more about how tax increments work, and particularly how sales tax is allotted between Amazon distribution centers and local municipalities. And there's some really weird, almost absurd wrinkles of, okay, if the company you buy from is based in California, but then sells via distribution center, who gets the sales tax, as opposed to if they're based in Nevada and sells through a distribution center. All those things, so if you're interested in those things, they are coming to the pipe. Deputy City Manager and I have been talking about this jobs creation fund that has been pushed out throughout Southern California. They're trying to designate different regional hubs around life sciences, aerospace and defense. I don't remember what the third one is. Something else, future. Anyhow, the future. But it is a significant amount of money. The minimum grant size is $500,000. There is no maximum. The fund has $125 million in it. It involves having nonprofit partners and things of that nature, but it's something that we may investigate if we have some things that we think will yield job creation. In that vein, all around those sorts of initiatives, met with Congressman Liu. At the Transportation Subcommittee, we talked about taking pressure off the 710, because the 710, the more trucks that are on the 710, the more trucks are pushed on the 405, which becomes a problem for us. So we had a really cool El Segundo innovator present, one of the first of two. This one is all about automated shuttle rail. So container comes off truck, or comes off ship, it gets loaded directly on basically two autonomous roller skates that can drive. They got wheels, but then they drive directly onto the train track and can take it all the way up to Santa Fe Springs to hook onto the major train and come back. Therefore, the concept being that they could deftly maneuver between the rail and the road to try and get pressure off the 710, because we are forbidden from expanding the 710, even though it was designed as a truck route. We are no longer allowed to put trucks on it, which is fascinating. Colic General Assembly coming up next week, if you care to attend. Met with the Historical Society. Our library volunteer numbers, they think are at least anecdotally down relative to where they once were. So that might be something to think, like, is there a community engagement piece coming out of COVID that people who may want to volunteer there, that may be something to just talk with them about, because it came up multiple times. Other than that, that's all I've got. City Attorney, over to you. Oh, we got sanitation tomorrow. So you're gonna have to wait for your sewage update. Sewage update will have to wait. City Attorney.
Thank you for the reminder about the freeway, because those of us that headed home after the last council meeting were in quite the surprise trying to get on the 405. Took a long,
surprise.
long time.
At least there's two cones warning you the ramp's closed.
Once you're on,
And once you're
Imperial
on,
and the 140,
once you're on,
there's no off.
Yeah, you are in it.
Yeah, so thank you. That's all I have.
Yes, Mayor and Council, only just a brief update on Hyperion. Still getting odor complaints, approximately 32 registered in the past 2 weeks, which were followed by 2 notices of violation on March 7th and March 10th. And then finally, the community survey that the folks from Heal the Bay were doing closed this past Friday. that news was reported on, it was emailed out by Hyperion, and then the survey, as you know, was linked on our city website. So as soon as we get those results, we will definitely share.
Two background pieces that involve City of LA. Well, one Edison, one City of LA. Do we have a sense of when they're going to start picking up tools on that Measure W project on Imperial at all? Any idea?
I don't.
Last you heard anything? I mean, I know you don't own it, but
The last conversation I had with the project manager, they are planning to get that project under design by summer. They're running behind because they don't have enough staff working for the city of LA, and frankly, this is something that most cities are going through. So my hope is by summer they get the project underway, and they know about our involvement, and we want to be involved. One of the things, and we had a meeting with LAWA, and I did point it out that they also needed to get that memorandum of understanding executed between LA and LAWA. We've done it, but I don't believe that has been done yet, so they're working on it. So, we meet with them regularly, and we try to stay on top of it. Unfortunately, things are not under our control, but we are pushing it as hard as we can.
and in that neighborhood, is Edison ready to plug the sign in, or is the box going to come alive behind the sign? Or else it got a sign? I put you on the spot. Are we ready to plug in the El Segundo sign? You can plug it in?
I know the fence
Is
is,
it- the fence is down.
The fence is down. We've been having issues for getting Edison back out there to energize the new cabinet. They indicated to us, and that is true, that they have 45 days to take action, and we are keeping pressure on them to come back, and frankly, they've been nice about it, but they've been delaying, and frankly, we have not been able to energize the new cabinet, and that's really part of the problem. But it's not a problem. They are very busy. They're saying they have all kinds of issues
Totally understood. Just
with the
wanted to
recent
update-
fires, and
For the people at home, I just wanted them to
Yeah.
understand that we would happily hit the test and reset button on that. Thank you. I didn't mean to hold you
Yeah,
hostage.
sure.
All right, anything else?
No, that's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, 7:48.